What'd you think about what Book had to say about LSU?
I mean, look, I think that he is absolutely right, right? Like a step back is understandable. The abject disaster that this season has not, it is not. Like, that is not excusable. And what I mean by that is not that, that everything is ruined, because as I laid out yesterday, I've actually come around that I think if you weather this short-term storm and if you can keep recruiting together, which it seems like they're doing a good job
Yeah.
of doing, then the lumps you were taking in the short term will pay off in the long term the same way it did with the Young 2017. So it's not to say that like everything is done, but it still makes what's happening in the short term inexcusable. And what I think Boog means, what I would agree with, is that what it means to me is you have to do the same things you did after that loss to Troy, the same things you did when you struggled in Ole Miss. It's something that has been one of Coach O's greatest attributes as a head football coach, especially later in his career, is the ability to self-scout, tell the truth Monday, be fully honest with yourself and ask where you need to improve. And obviously he's not going to like come on the radio and just say all of that. He's not going to give you the full idea of where he thinks this is. He's going to have his coaches back, the other sort of things like that. But he still has been pretty honest, about as honest as you can be in that situation. But I mean, look, Boog's right. This isn't so Larry Holder had has an article in The Athletic today, and it's not just that LSU is a bad defending national champion. LSU is on the cusp, Jordy, of maybe being the worst defending national champion ever. Or, definitely in the top 10. In fact, if you look, and like I said, this is all from a Larry Holder article, in The Athletic, the ESPN S&P Plus, which Bill Connolly made, analytics, right? They have turned on LSU. LSU right now has just a 20% chance of finishing 5-5.
That is
or
crazy.
better.
Like, where do
30
people see the wins on this
Well,
LSU
but that's why it's
schedule?
a 20. But that's why it's a 20%
Yeah.
chance. Well, I mean, it would be definitely Arkansas and Ole Miss, and then you stumble into one of the others, right? They have a 38% chance of going 4-6. That is most likely. That makes, but to your point, Jordy, a 33% chance of going 3-7. So 3-7 and 4-6 are the much more likely options. And
What's
when
the
you
number
look,
on 2 and 8?
I don't know on 2 and 8. I know that you have a 9% chance of losing out compared to a 3% chance of winning out. So obviously losing out more likely. LSU though, it's pretty wild when you talk about how impressive this is. Here are a list of the defending Natty champions that have finished 500 or worse. It was 1875 Yale, who finished 2-2 the next year. It's 1913 Penn State,
Wow.
1919 Michigan, 1923 Princeton, 1929 Georgia Tech, 1934 Michigan, 1939 TCU, 1950 Notre Dame, 1967 Michigan State. So it drives home a couple of things. Now, first off, partially this is influenced because back then you didn't have these cupcake games, right? You were scheduling. It was kind of like the season is this year. But I think also back in those days, college football was more of a Wild West where teams maybe weren't set up for the long-term success. I think in the modern era of football, building the program that it takes to win a national championship means that it is exceedingly rare that when you build a program high enough to have that level of success that you fall so flat on your face the next year it is. So the fact that the last time a defending national champion was 500 or worse was 1967
Wow.
should give you an idea of just how poor this season has been. It was Michigan State who went 3-7 the year after. How about this? So I mentioned that 1919 Michigan team. Well, they win the national championship. The next year they go 3-4. They lose to Minnesota. And I love this bit of sports writing because this is exactly what LSU fans are hoping will happen against Alabama. Listen to this. Old sports writing is the best. From 1919. This is a Minnesota beat writer writing about them beating Michigan. After countless years of anxious waiting, of vain endeavor, and hopeless plotting, they came back to Michigan today on Ferry Field and gave the men of Fielding Yost one of the most artistically thorough lickings ever handed to the well-respected band of Husky Wolverines. What are the defeats by Illinois and Iowa? What do they amount to compared with the honor and glory attained by trampling upon the maize and blue of Michigan, of grinding Yost's pupils beneath the ponderous score in a game that was Minnesota's practically start to finish? Nothing, say we. And every Minnesota rooter should feel the same way about it. So that is all to say, like, what our loss is to Mississippi State and Missouri, they don't matter at all. If you can somehow pull it out this week and trample on that crimson the same way Minnesota did 100 years ago against Michigan. I just don't think it's going to happen because in this story, LSU is Michigan. So
Yes.
that's a bit unfortunate.
Musso, will you and Hunt Palmer be camped out at the box this afternoon? You
No.
looking for a vantage point?
No, I'm actually not.
Purple and gold World
At the
Series?
moment.
No?
Nope.
No enthusiasm over there
No,
for the Purple
we
and
got-
gold
we
World
got-
Series?
There's enthusiasm.
Coming up
but
last hour, we're going to have Musso give us his 5 things that he's watching in this Purple and Gold World Series. So look forward to that in the OT. Let's talk about the Alabama game real quick. How
Yeah, real quick.
how motivated is Alabama going to be to bury
Very
LSU?
motivated. Like they are extremely motivated. See, I'm telling you that this is going to be Alabama. They have circled this game from everything that happened last year in Tuscaloosa to the piece of video that came out in the locker room after winning that game to what the head coach said.
Roll Tide what? For you.
Roll Tide, what, bleep you. We're going to out-recruit them. We're going to outplay them. We're going to do. And when we get Roll Tide, what, bleep you, that's probably playing in that facility on loop
24/7, yeah.
right now. The recruiting wars, just everything that has gone into the offseason of LSU being the national champs. I got to imagine even for Nick Saban, who never plays these games or never allows you to see inside of himself playing these games where he gets motivated by himself to go out and prove a point. I would imagine that Saban has seen the way that LSU has victory lapped this 2019 national championship, whether it be with with all of the social media, with all of the highlight videos, the 60 Minutes presentations, the books being published, that he's probably sitting back and saying, "Let me go make an example out of this crew." And I anticipate him to do the same type of things that Gus Malzahn was doing to LSU last week, calling timeout in the fourth quarter to set up a pass to throw the ball when you're up 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
That's that's where it is. I mean, that's the feeling of LSU, and that's the revenge that other teams want. And I think that nobody wants more revenge than Alabama. And not only the Alabama fan base and the people around Alabama, I think it's inside that locker room. I think it's the coaches. I think it's the players. So
I think what sucks too is normally in this game, let's take away last year. If you look at the losing streak, the majority of the years you could at least convince yourself you had a chance. I mean, you were still pretty good, right? You were still a good team. You're still ranked. You're still all of these things. This is the first year where I just don't even know how you could craft an argument that you will win on the field.
And what's more concerning is the way that LSU, the way that they react on the field. Like a lot of people are talking about that Auburn game where it was close for 12 minutes. It felt like LSU was playing pretty good defensively, but once they got knocked in the face, once they got punched, they folded.
Yeah,
they caved.
The fumble was the pick was the first kind of haymaker landed, got him a little wobbly. The fumble had him teetering on the edge, some people calling for the fight, and then the 99-yard drive just completely bodied him, and they just never got up off the mat again.
And didn't want to.
Yeah, they didn't want
right?
to. Yeah,
like, I mean, they had
it hurt, and they didn't want any more of that pain.
They had no will or desire to get back out there and fight. And if you have that mentality, if that's the mindset, and for me, T, when I look at a team like that, and you're talking about that after the 6th week of the season, it's too far gone. That's why I struggle to really find a win on this schedule. I still believe that Arkansas with Sam Pittman, they're better coached at this point. They're a better
could be better
team.
coached. I think they are better coached, but the talent gap
That's
is still
fine.
massive.
But T, if you don't have the motivation behind these talented guys, the talent means zero. If they're going to give up after one play or they're going to shut it down mentally after they get kicked in the teeth one time, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you've got a top 3 pick or if you've got an undrafted free agent type talent. It makes no issue about the 5 stars or the 1 star. If you got a team that collectively is pushing together, you know this. But I'm not preaching. I'm not preaching to you. I'm just.
I
saying,
agree with you in that. Like, my greatest concern long term remains. I just don't know how I feel about Pelini's ability, even when he has top level stock talent again in that cupboard. because I feel like he's been a net negative on that side of the ball in terms of dragging down the talent. Like, will it just be the same, but when you have better talent, it looks better? So, yeah, I mean, I have these same kind of concerns when it comes to the level of coaching of this team. It's just that football never quite works out how you expect it to, and I will not pick LSU to win again because they're too inconsistent to do so. But I'm also not going to crown Arkansas and Ole Miss just yet. I mean, Ole Miss is still very bad as well. They're exciting, and you like where they are. Like, they're a team that is being same thing with Arkansas. They're both being coached above their talent, and that's why they feel so much better. Well, but they're still actually not better teams.
And I felt really good about the Ole Miss game 3 weeks ago when you could offensively get off the bus and you could score. Right? But if you can't score and this defense, you take this defense anywhere, I mean, they can't stop little Jay's team on a Saturday morning, much less Ole Miss.
Jay's out there beasting those sons. I mean, I don't know.
Put him in.
Look, I mean, how are you going to stop Alabama? I think the offensive problems, I mean, so much is going to come down to the O-line. It's why you look so good against South Carolina, why you look so poor against Auburn. Obviously, once you get Brennan back, that helps mitigate how tied in your level of success is to the offensive line because he has more of the playbook to work with, and he can make some plays that the younger guys aren't ready to make yet.
Would you rather Wednesday next?